We'll be done with the lecture. Today, we are looking at Anthony Johnson. Yes, Anthony Johnson. Anthony Johnson was born circa 1600, and he was born in Portuguese Angola. Hey, when he was only 20 years old, there was a slave raid. In fact, a raid of free people, and he was captured. That is his photograph you see right here in the African history class, black and white. His story is going to, in fact, elevate you, your spirits, your mind, and your soul. Anthony Johnson. At the age of 20, he was captured and put on a ship and carried all the way to America. And when he arrived in America, he was sent to the state of Virginia. And over there, he was enslaved. Imagine, he was carried as a slave. And he was enslaved and made an indentured slave. Do you know what it means to say indentured slave? That hands up. Do you know? Who knows what it means to say indentured slave? Now, an indentured slave is a slave who works for a period of time to pay off some debts. Just like we have trokoshi, they are indentured slaves. When you pay off the debt that you owe by providing service, at the end of the time, you become free. In the days, indentured slaves served up to about 7 years. And depending on how they served, they could still be kept into indentured slavery or permanent slavery. My brother, my sister, he arrived all the way from Angola, arrived in Virginia, where he served his master very diligently. Because he had been told that if at the end of the service his master was not satisfied, he could continue to be in servitude. He worked night and day. His master would beg him to sleep at night. He would tell his master, "Master, there is evil in darkness. I will continue to work." He would work all night and all day. The only time he took a rest was when nobody watched, and he slumped into a very quick sleep and got up again. By the age of 22, he already knew the whole of Virginia. Anthony Johnson, oh God, after about 7 years of service, it was over, and he was now a free Negro. His name was originally not Anthony Johnson. They gave him this slave name by force, probably named after his master. In some books, you will read that he was called Antonio. But in this class, we will simply call him Anthony Johnson. He worked very hard for over 7 years, and his master had no excuse. When his work was over, oh my God, his master could not say anything but to reward him, pray for him, and set him free. Can I take you through how he did his work so diligently? Listen to this. Sold into the transatlantic slave trade. He arrived and he worked very hard. He was initially called Antonio. When he arrived in the colony of Virginia, he worked extremely hard. He also went to the Roman Catholic Church where he worshipped. And for some reason, they liked him in the church because he worked very hard. He cleaned and ran errands for the church as well. Oh my God. He sailed all the way to Virginia in 1621 when he was probably 21 years aboard the ship known as James. Hey, that was when he arrived in America. From the age of 20, they sailed for about 1 year before they arrived in America. And when they arrived, he started to work as a slave Negro. He worked very, very hard as an indentured slave. Look at what happened. In 1622, just 1 year after he had arrived in America, there was what historically was known as the Indian Massacre of 1622. Now, this Indian Massacre was when some people known as the Powhatan, Powhatan. Now, the Powhatan people may refer to any of the indigenous Algonquian people that are traditionally from East Virginia. These were the people, the traditional people. In fact, they were Indians. And they came all the way to the area where our hero was serving as an indentured slave. There were 57 people, black people, all carried there as slaves. These Powhatan people killed 52 of them. As you can see in this painting, they killed 52 and left only 5 people. Out of the 5, 1 was a woman, and she was called Mary. Mary was also carried all the way from the shores of Africa and brought into slavery and taken onto this slave plantation where our hero for today, Anthony Johnson, was serving. The 5 of them were those who remained after 52 were slaughtered by the Powhatan people. But our hero, Anthony Johnson, he stood firm and fought off the Powhatan people and kept the place for his master. When his master saw that, this was what he did. 52 people had been killed, but he stood firm and fought to protect the land. His master said, "You have done so well." When it was all over, he got so much land. He got so much land. Yes. How much land did he get? When his master finally decided that it was over and he had served him so well and it was time for him to go, he had 1 hectare and even more land. And this was when he started to also do his work. My brother, my sister, before his very eyes, 52 people were slaughtered. Only 5 of them remained. He married Mary. And when he married Mary, they lived together for 40 solid years, my brother, my sister. His indentured servitude was over. And when it was over, his master decided to give him 250 acres of land. That's an equivalent of 100 hectares of land. Big piece of land. And he became the boss of the land. His master also left some people for him to use as indentured slaves. His master also decided that, he could have slaves to work for him. But our hero for today only kept indentured slaves. People who worked for just a time. And after that they left. It was only one person who became a permanent slave to our hero for today, Anthony Johnson. And what happened? Now there was a man called John Castle. John Castle. Castle is spelled C-A-S-O-R. C-A-S-O-R. John Castle was an indentured slave who worked for our hero for today, Anthony Johnson. At a point, he ran to another master and said, "You know, my period of servitude is over, but my master, Anthony Johnson, is still keeping me. If you can help me go to court and win the case, then I will come and serve you." They went to court and won the case. But Anthony Johnson realized that the court had not treated him so well, all because he was black. And he became the very first black man to legally own land in America, my brother, my sister, as a former slave. Note that. The very first black man to own land in America as a former indentured slave was Anthony Johnson. 250 acres of land. Listen to what happened. John Castle went to court, won it, but Anthony Johnson went to court for an appeal and won. And the court decided that John Castle should continue to serve his master, Anthony Johnson. That was how come he continued to be in his servitude. Today we remember this great black man. He was able to give opportunities to a lot of black people. He was able to help a lot of black people. He became so wealthy. He married only one woman, Mary, and they had children. He went into tobacco farming, made a lot of money from tobacco farming. Oh God, so much money. My brother, my sister. But he and his family, having lived in so much opulence, the whole caboodle was short-lived. He died of natural causes, my brother, my sister, circa 1670, at the age of 70 years. And when he died, all his property went to a white man in inheritance. Why? Because he was black. In those days, black people were not seen as citizens of America. They could own property, but they could never inherit property. Can you believe this? You can own property, but you cannot inherit property. All that he had went to a white man. My brother, my sister, today we remember this great black man. There was a time fire gashed his whole farm, but he went to court and was able to get some kind of rebate for this, and he built up from there and continued to be wealthier and wealthier and wealthier. Today we remember you. Today we appreciate you. Anthony Johnson, we love you. Oh, Papa. Unenyaminko wate. Papa, unenyaminko damrifa duye wate. Oh, Papa, uwe ya. Unenyaminko. In the burden of knowledge, I ask you, now that you know, what will you do? Be an any ole mini oba fe yazuna kagane mezaka yine. Ye pa bango bokaya nufifi ya nyanu kai na waba na enwe be yeden. Lele anjima singa be konne, lele anjima singa beri. It's been the African History Class.